All right then. Well, the better thing we're going off to now is we are going to have the update, which we're all excited about, from the Grand Canal Regeneration Project. And the team is here, so go for it.
Before I go off on that, I would like to ask one question. Is there anything that we should do? Like, for example, I do want to make a follow-up because as we discussed, we have not seen the questions that were submitted. And so therefore, I'd like to know, we should see those before they go, and they should be published. All right. So, and I also want to go back to the commissioners and indicate, I didn't mean we didn't get the time. What I meant is we didn't get the conversation. You know, we didn't get a chance to really input. So that's what I want to make that clear again when I go back. So I'm going to go back and ask for those. But is there anything else that perhaps anybody should, I mean, I know we don't want to necessarily badger the commissioners because it's not to their place yet. Should we be talking to the planning committee now or any of that?
Actually, I think we cannot speak to them directly about what's going to come before them. And we can get some good help that are familiar with what we should be ready for. And that's what we're doing now.
Right. And one more thing, Catherine. We saw in, thank you, Rachel, for publishing once again, the results of the Stickney Point traffic study. You know, is there something that perhaps we can also be prepared for in that area? Because it appears to me that once again, we have the developers deciding that this is the traffic. And we know that it isn't even rational what they're putting down.
Well, that's a good question. And I'm glad you reminded me, because today I had an update on some very good work that is going on professionally regarding traffic studies that are much more comprehensive in terms of actual movement of people and cars and pedestrians and bicycles in that whole area. And the data is, I think, going to be quite compelling. And at this point, I will tell you that it's part of the same good group that worked on the aspects of the Siesta Promenade, which was such a difficult situation. And I believe we're going to have, I'm going to watch what they have very soon, like within this week. And I think they were going to have something that will be so compelling that it might make a tremendous difference to DOT in terms of what they've already permitted. Excuse me? Yes, this has to do with that one light at BNC. And I know it's not just about a light, it's really about all of the incredible amount of traffic that we're already seeing, but also how they're going to manage that with intensified development. And this will include an allocation of what it would be with the number of rooms and people at any given time of day. So we'll give them a reality view of what that would look like.
Right.
I think that's the work in the background right now.
Okay. One more question. I assume in the old business, you may discuss the roundabout.
Oh, well, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
We can. That's right.
Okay, so I will go ahead and start. I'm going to introduce the group here. Let me get there we go. All right, so guys, what we have here is that we're going to have Phil Chocchio and Paul Westling. They're going to give us a presentation, so I'm going to turn it over to Phil. Are you unmuted, Phil?
I think I am now.
Okay.
This is a 3-minute presentation about our December installation, and it hopefully answers a lot of questions for a lot of people about what we're doing, and hopefully people will get involved, even those that do not have docks, because it's good for everyone. So after it's over, we'll be happy to answer any questions. Paul?
He's muted.
Paul, you need to unmute.
As a story of my life, I'm always muted, except when I'm not. I know I got no questions.
All right, now I'll get it back. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Now we'll do it. Sorry about that. We'll do it again. Oh, darn. All right, I'll try it again.
Regeneration project is an ambitious, years-long environmental plan that hopes to reestablish the 9-mile-long Grand Canal as a fish nursery and a sea life aquaculture habitat. That's the goal. But
I'm
now,
not seeing it.
how does it work? I'm not seeing it either.
For a long time, for years, for an opportunity to have a large scale
Thank you, guys.
deployment in an area that
Let me
needs a lot
stop
of
it.
help.
I'll start
The
again.
Grand Canal is something
All
I
right.
got the voice
quite
figured
large,
out, but
a lot of dock space, so it's something to show what the mini reef can do at a scale.
Many reefs that you bring up, could you describe them? What are they made of? Plastic is not too terrific when you put it in the water, but why is this different?
They're made out of polypropylene.
how's that?
That's the
Better?
plastic that you're going to
Now I'll start it again. All
The
right.
goal of the Siesta Grand Canal Regeneration project is an ambitious, years-long environmental plan
Can you see
that hopes
it?
to reestablish the
Yes.
long Grand Canal as a fish nursery and a sea life aquaculture habitat. That's the goal. But now, how does it work?
We have been looking for a long time, for years, for an opportunity to have a large scale deployment in an area that needs a lot of help. And the Grand Canal is something that needs help. It's quite large, there's a lot of dock space, so it's something to show what the mini reef can do at a scale.
Many reefs that you bring up, could you describe them? What are they made of? Plastic is not too terrific when you put it in the water, but why is this different?
They're made out of polypropylene. That's the plastic that you're going to see dock pilings wrapped with at marinas, ports. It's used extensively because it holds up to UV radiation, doesn't get brittle and fall apart. It holds up to salt water for about 500 years. It doesn't really shed microplastics for about 75 years, and it is recyclable.
What happens when you put it in the water?
What it does is it mimics the natural ecosystem you would have under a mangrove tree or in saltwater marsh grasses. But it also gives a place for young life, like just hatched fish, shrimp, and crabs. They can hide in there and they can get a food source like they would naturally in those environments that we've lost due to coastal development.
I imagine that there are no other projects like this in the Sarasota area.
But as far as restoring nursery habitat, there's almost nobody on the planet doing that other than people who plant mangrove trees.
When these animals ingest the gunk that's in the water, what happens to that?
Well, it's their food source, so they digest it. They go to the bathroom like everybody else. That in turn is the food source for marine worms, things called amphipods that look kind of like little tiny shrimp. Those are then the food for the baby fish, shrimp, and crabs that are growing up on the unit. And those are food for bigger fish, shrimp, and crabs as we go through the food chain all the way up to dolphins and us and everything else.
One of the objectives of this regeneration project is to take water samples from many locations in the canal. Managing the data collection is David Mazzolo. Analyzing the samples is Amanda Obeda, the Florida Sea Agent with the University of Florida Extension and Florida Water Watch, who tells us what the data tells him.
Our excitement has been amazing. It has truly been a neighbor-to-neighbor program. We started out with the idea of putting 10 in for a pilot. When I started the first round, I went to some of the neighborhoods and put in flyers and talked to people at doors. In a week, I had 23 people sign up in 1 week. So I know we can do this, and we need to spread it though neighbor to neighbor so they can see the benefits. And it's an opportunity to bring the neighbors together in a positive way to make changes for our environment.
There's a lot more information about this project. Go to the SiestaKeyAssociation.com website and click on SKA Launches the Grand Canal Regeneration Project.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and bring us back to the presentation. All right, and Phil, you're on.
It'd be great if neighbors start talking to neighbors. Can you hear me? It'd be
Yeah.
great if neighbors can start talking to neighbors and promote this thing, because
I see.
we need to have enough of them in there so we can have a big party in 2025, the 100th birthday of the
I
Grand
think
Canal.
we're looking for a place to stay 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, got it. Catherine?
Yes, I had someone from Bay Island today ask me a question. He said he'd been through the area. He has kayaks as well as a boat. And he said that he was amazed to see all the participation. He could tell. He has 2 docks and he is very interested in it, but he was concerned about how they are attached underneath. for fear that when the water is at high tide, they would move up and potentially harm the underside of his dock. And I think he's going to be assigned in tonight. Could you tell him how that would work?
I'll chime in on that. What I heard from Ocean Habitats was that once these get full, they start to weigh 200-300 pounds. So their lifting capability is very minimal. And they have not had any problems with lifting docks, especially if the docks are approved docks that have met the requirements of a dock, because those docks can hold boats up and all the rest. So they're in the ground pretty sturdy. So the lifting part of the under dock mini reef doesn't really put too much torque on the surface, and it just seems it's a couple times a year we've been getting these higher tides. So it's a new phenomenon. But I have not heard from anybody saying there's been any kind of damage, unless it was some rickety thing built back in the 60s by a bunch of kids. So it's I hope that explains it.
Yes, and I think that if he's listening, I hope that he got that answer. I said I had not heard of that being a problem, but I have not been a person helping all of you with your incredible work. So thank you very much.
I'm going to add that Paul has been, and Westling has gone out, just interviewed Lorraine, who's had it for a couple of years, so she's going to talk about some of that in the video. She's a very happy owner of, and I think she has two. I think she has two now. One, she has one.
She went through that process when that tide came in not too long ago, and it came up over the seawall. It had no effect on her dock at all.
I would say the other thing that Phil didn't mention is that these mini reefs are attached by ropes, but they also have pulleys on them. So there's only so far they'll be able to go with the tension going back and forth. Now, it allows them to float, but it also allows them to stay somewhat more stable on the top. Okay, and I think, again, we've got questions and answers on the website too, and it's in our newsletter, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Now I'm going to go on. Okay, so next one. Now I'm going to go ahead and give Dave Azula's information. Dave is one of the fellows that's on the canal along with Armando. The two of them came out with Phil and Paul on January 22nd to start the water sampling. Well, one of the things that occurred before they started, Dave decided that it would be smart to break the Grand Canal up into sections. So we now have 4 sections. These sections are the Grand Canal in this area, we're calling that. We're down here at Siesta Isles below the Grand Canal. There's Palm Island, and then over here on the northwest side is Ocean Beach, Sarah Sands. And this is one of the areas I've been concentrating on. And as you can see, when you look at our chart, if you look at the Ocean Beach, Sarah Sands, we've only got 6 homes right now with mini reefs. So that's a 6 over there, and they're located in this area. And this is also where so we only have one little flow from coming in from the Grand Canal for flow in there. So we need to get some more work to get this cleaned up. So that'll be one of the concentrations for our February install that we're going to be doing. But the first thing to mention is the sections, because it's going to make it easier for us to see how the canal is doing as we look at pieces and parts. The second thing that Dave has done is we are concentrating on the Grand Canal. Please don't get me wrong. This is where we have to focus. But we are getting some offers to put in here on the Gulf side in the lagoons, some mini reefs. So we're doing that as well. And that's it's got a channel that's coming in from the Gulf. So it's got good water. We just need to put some in to help clean it up. And it's got nice fish population. Now on the intercoastal, we're also getting requests to do work on the intercoastal. So we're putting a few in the intercoastal, but Dave is separating those into different categories so that we can make sure that we're watching the science and the impact of those different areas as well. So just to go back to what Dave's put together for us, we've got a 9-mile Grand Canal system, and it includes about 878 homes with the docks. We only have right now 60 homes with the, actually have the mini reefs installed. And that moves up and down because some people have put them in, not with us. So Dave's got to go find them on the canal and mark them on. We've got a total, we will, with our February installs, have a total of about 80 mini reefs, 80. And we're going for a little more, so we'll see. But about 80 mini reefs will go in by the end of that install. We could be up to 80, which would be pretty good. Because you've got to remember, we only started in November. And so we've gone, we've done pretty good. So we're not doing too bad. So breaking it out, you can see that looking at percentages, we've only got 7% of the whole canal home systems in. 12% luck over here. This is where we concentrated last time. And the Siesta Key area, Siesta Key Circle, Woodmont, and what was the other? Tremont, Woodside, Tremont, and a few of them in here. We have really done very well, and they're up to 12%. So that's where our push is. Palm Island, 7%. Siesta Isles is 8%. And then, as I said, this section over here is what I'm pushing on now. It's only 2%. So what we'll do with each of the installs is try to concentrate in certain areas with the install, but definitely we'll take orders from any of these, anything we can get, because the more we put in, the better we're going to be. Now, Dave is on. David, do you want to add anything? No? Okay. All right. Is there any questions before I go to the next slide? Okay. So Dan, you're looking, you see anything?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to the next slide. Now, what I'm going to talk, this is a little busy. This is like an update on our project. First of all, we're taking orders, as I said, our February orders are going now. We're going to look to install on February 15th and 16th. That's next Monday, or not next Monday, but a week from this Monday, to put them in the water. Our focus, my focus right now is Primrose, Gibbons, Ralph, Heigl, Treasure Boat, Oxford, and I do have a little bit on some other streets in there. But we are accepting orders from anything we can get in the canal and otherwise. Now, the good news, okay, we are grants and foundations. I didn't get a chance to finish this. We are working on the community playbook for healthy waterways. This is a brand new opportunity from the Gulf Coast Foundation. They are going to focus on, for their efforts in the next year, on getting communities to focus on healthy waterways. Our Gulf and intercoastal, with the amount of population we've gotten, the amount of red tide, and the heat in the water, it's in a little stress right now. We are having some challenges with the juvenile fish population as well as crabs. We need to make sure, we have to start taking care of them. That's the bottom line, period. The runoffs, I can go on. Anyway, so these playbooks give us an opportunity from Gulf Coast to focus on some areas, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The second thing that I didn't get a chance to put in here is that with the Sea Agent, we are getting an opportunity with Mote to partner with Mote and with Anna Marie, the center at Anna Marie Island, to work on a grant that will improve the waterway. So this just came up this week, and it just looks excellent. Mote's going to lead it, and we've agreed. I'm agreeing to on our part, if you don't mind, for the Siesta Key Grand Canal to participate with our science and with our people to make this a more of a West Coast focus. So we're going to do that from the Sea Agent grant. So we're going to have two opportunities for grants. And why that's important, the mini reefs can only go so far. We can only do so much with that. We need to have more things like irrigators. We have to open the shoal, which is right here on our other actions. We have to get to the West Coast Inland Navigation District and find out why they had an objection, because we need to get this shoal removed to get more flow.
I told you, this oil match any price.
Is somebody asking a question? No.
No, if you find one lower,
I got to get him on. Okay, so put the map back up, because what I was saying is that we need to get this mouth opened up and get the flow. These areas are a little bit more stressed, and this little guy here is not getting much water either. So if we can improve this waterfall, we can improve that oxygen levels in the Gulf and the quality of that water. So that's one of the key things that'll be on our program. And then we're also going to present coming up at the Sarasota Bay Estuary, which is also part of the playbook. So it kind of ties this all together with Mote and the Community Foundation, as well as the estuary, to be a part of stakeholders in what's going on in our water. Okay. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk just quickly on the playbook. I just mentioned it to you. I'm not going to spend much time on this, but what I have here is some ideas. What they're asking us to do is use science to get an inventory, which you can see we've started on our inventory, and we have to start identifying the cost and the effectiveness of different solutions that'll help reduce the nutrient pollution. That's what we're going after. We all know runoffs cause a problem, construction caused a problem. So we got things that are happening in that waterway that's also stressing it out. And then we're going to coordinate some ongoing with the data gathering. Next would be to go ahead and have policies in place to improve it. And then education will be something else that'll come up. So how do we do this? We do it by walking through the playbook from a standpoint of how do we reduce? We're going to look at reducing wastewater. Now, I don't think we have septic systems here on the island, but we got to check. There might be still some around. Biosolids, but fertilizer, wastewater are definitely some of our hitters, heavy hitters here. So we'll have to work on that and how we identify where there are. We're getting, David's getting from.
You're trying to get to, Chris.
I'm sorry, is somebody not muted? Okay. I'm sorry, I got to get people to mute. All right. So we got the reduction. What we're going to do is identify where the drains are. We're going to do some things about, again, focusing on where we have to focus on for fertilizer. And then we have to look at how do we remove. So that'll be, this is the two areas we're working on right now. And then eventually we'll move into education. And that's where we can, again, use some of our partners to do a better job. So that's what a playbook looks like for us and where we're going. And then finally, I got to say thank you to the community first. Look, as I said, look where we've come. We started out with about 50, and we're going to get to 80, and I mean just in a short time. So thank you all, and I need you all to continue to talk to dock owners in the area and mention we've got this program. If they don't have a mini reef, maybe there's a way we can keep this moving. I'm looking for some helping hands, and what I'm looking for is people with skills to write for grants. I mean, it's not a lot of work, but we can always use people that understand how to do grants, writing for a grant. We'll be responding to RFIs, requests for information, or RFPs. So again, if we got any people that want to help with that, I'd love to have you. Eventually, I need someone who knows Google Docs too to get us up and going. Right now, I'm using YouTube to teach me Google Docs. And then finally, the third item is we know there's springs, believe it or not, in the canal, freshwater springs. So if anybody knows where those are, it'd be cool to be able to put them on our map so we could track them. Because again, that's a different type of water for our canal system. And it would be smart to know when we see those, where they are. All right, and then finally, any questions? Okay, if not, I'm going to go back to the agenda here.
I'll ask one, Jean. I'll ask one question just for all of us. With some of the work on testing and quantifying things and keeping track of all your measurements, is there a need for us to have anybody help with funding, or are we okay with the funds that we have now? What do we need to do in the future?
I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that's a big goal of the funding opportunities that Jean mentioned with the community foundation and with the one that we're now working on, an application with Mote. If we are able to get some of that funding, I think a lot of that could be applied to the testing, some of the testing equipment that we could use, as well as some of the testing that's more advanced needs to go to labs. So there's a cost to that. So yes, I think you're right on target. That would be a big help. While I'm answering that, I would just say too, I think that grant funding could also be very helpful in the longer term with an education program. I am one of the dock owners. I think a lot of people who live on the canal just need to be educated on what to do and what not to do and how to help the ecosystem.
Well, that's great. That sounds good. And I was really excited when this one member of ours, actually, that I hadn't spoken with in a while, said he'd been traveling up and down the canal. I do believe we are a navigable waterway, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
We are, but
I think we are that.
Yeah.
And anyway, he was very interested, and he really lives right just on this side of the bridge, right where you channel around the island there to come into the opening. And they're very interested all up through there. So that would be a really nice addition too, wouldn't it?
I could just share one anecdote with that. When I've been out on my kayak and Phil made these great signs kind of promoting the program. I think you may have seen those in some
I think he did. That's right. He did.
When I've been out on the canal, people going by on their boats or they're out by their house in the dock, they see this and they react very favorably. So it's great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because people like to join up with something that they feel does a good thing for where they live. And I can't think of anything better that's made me happier this year, actually, so far. So truly, what a great job you all have been doing. Just wonderful.
I'd like to comment on the navigable waterway. Just short. I met with Justin McBride, the West Coast Inland Navigation District chief today, and I asked him about that because we were rejected 2 years ago about having them pay for the removal of the shoal. And he said that since the Grand Canal does not have anything public like a restaurant or a boat ramp, then it doesn't qualify under their jurisdiction to remove the shoal. But I asked him if we put a boat ramp at the water treatment site, would that qualify? Yes, it would. And I said, well, what about a kayak launch? And he says, does it need dredging? And I said, of course it needs dredging. So that's where we are right now. So it's something to do with their rules about public access to the canal at some point. And then it would come under their jurisdiction to help remove the shoal. If we want to remove the shoal ourselves, yes, we get an engineer to tape measure the thing and spend some money and a couple truckloads of stuff out of there. And I asked the county today, can we dump it on your place? And he says, yeah, you can't dump it for free. We have to pay you. And we, excuse me, we would have to invoice them for 50 cents or something. And that would be fine. But they pay us 50 cents, we can dump it someplace. So.
I wonder if we could add it like as a tour along the way for the county parks. Over the years, I've heard people say the manatees like to come way up here before the big opening, and where they used to call it the grass bar. You know, they like to come to the grass bar. And I'm going, well, I wonder what made that happen there. Interesting question, but it's right near the where the SKA plant used to have discharge. So.
That's great news, Phil. Now, Catherine, there's an opportunity here to go again to the chamber and to the county. I mean, they don't know what they're going to do with that piece of land. It'd be great if we could figure out how to pay for a dock to go in there to put a mini reef in and plant some seagrass and get that thing ready to go. I mean, that would be, what a place to launch kayaks on the island. It'd be cool, you know, and it would be a positive use for the community. And we don't have any parks, by the way, other than the beach. We don't have any parks on the island. So it gives the commissioners to get us a park.
If it's a park, then maybe the navigation district would say, oh, well, now that's a public thing and people need access to the park by water. So
does anyone know if Glebe Park has an opening onto the waterway there? I was thinking, I was hopeful that it did, but maybe not. So yeah, okay. Well, we'll have to check on that. See,
we'll have to. That would be good. Thank you.
Great idea.
Great. So you can see, guys, we're really excited about this. It's just amazing. I mean, pieces have fallen into place that have been amazing. And now I need to get to the point where we do some professional writing. So any help that anybody wants to offer in this area, we could use it. All right. As well as talk about these canals. Let's get these mini reefs in. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All of you. Thank you.